Good morning. Today is May 14th, and this is our, I think, second bar talk for 2025. And we're very lucky to have Justice Mead and Magistrate Judge Wolf join us today to talk about a new program. Before we get going on that, for those of you who may not know me, I'm Angela Armstrong, the Executive Director of the Bar Association. I'm going to go over a couple of things, and then I'm going to hand it over to President Susan Fonts. So at the end of this month, we have the Elder Law and Estate Planning Institute. That's at the Augusta Civic Center, and registration is open for that. We hope you'll join us. And then, of course, the Summer Bar Conference coming up in Bar Harbor on June 25th through the 27th. We really hope you'll join us for that. Registration is open. We've got some great programming lined up, some fun, family-friendly. Got some trivia competition for Thursday night dinner, which we did for the first time last year, and it was such a blast. So please join us. Another reminder that we really need lawyers in the lawyer referral service. We are getting a lot of good cases that are coming in, and we do not have the attorneys to pass them on to. And I know everybody's busy, but we have some really good cases coming in. You don't have to take all the cases. You get to choose what you want to take. We've got a new setup, a new director who does a great job of intake. She's a former attorney, Celine Boyle. So please, if you have any interest in getting some referrals, join the lawyer referral service. And for those of you who did not see, we did send out an email. The 2024 annual report is now available for those of you who are interested in giving it a review. So, Susan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Fonts. I am here today to introduce you to Justice Mead and Judge Wolf. They're going to be talking to you this morning about pro bono opportunities for which you can get recognition, credit, and maybe even tax credit. So I will just turn it over to Justice Mead and Judge Wolf.
Thank you, Susan and Angela, and thank you all for joining us here today. It's great to get together outside of the courtroom, even if it is virtual on the screen. Hopefully see a lot of you at the summer meeting. I put in a pitch for the summer meeting. It looks like it's going to be great. I've already registered and hope to see you there. I am the Senior Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court. I followed Justice Alexander, who I see is present here today. He occupied that seat before me with distinction. I'm also joined with Magistrate Judge Karen Frank-Wolf, who serves as Vice Chair of the Justice Action Group. I serve as the chair. Some of you may not be familiar with the Justice Action Group, JAG as we call it. It was created about a quarter of a century ago by then Chief Judge Frank Coffin of the Federal First Circuit Court of Appeals and then Chief Justice Stan Wathen of the Supreme Judicial Court. It was conceived as a judge-led coalition to advocate for civil legal services. At the time it was created, civil legal services somehow ended up as a political football. I'm not quite sure how it's a political issue, but they felt that having a judge-led coalition would take it out from under that political umbrella. The group is made up of a coalition of civil legal services providers, other organizations, and individuals who are committed to access to justice for Maine's underserved populations. JAG's missions include being a centralized communication hub for the providers. We also provide education and outreach. We encourage pro bono legal services by the private bar, and our central main mission is advocating for funding for the providers. Today, Magistrate Wolf and I will actually be talking about 3 programs that were created at the behest of JAG that may be of interest to you, including the brand new CLE credit program. That'll be the main event here in Justice, and Judge Wolf will walk you through that. We also will try and save some time for questions. Questions can be posted in the chat box that our host, Executive Director, and multi-talented Angela Armstrong will keep track of and give us a heads up as to what's coming through there. So we have a lot of ground to cover. I'll try and move as quickly as I can. I want to talk to you first about the Katahdin Council Recognition Program. It was created in 2011 by the Maine Supreme Judicial Court in response to a proposal by the Justice Action Group. We know that Maine lawyers, you, contribute your time and efforts generously without expectation of compensation to Maine's neediest and most vulnerable communities. And as a judge for the last 35 years, I've seen, as all judges have seen, the tragic and really often unnecessary results that occur when unrepresented individuals attempt to navigate the legal landscape without counsel. They come in, they're frightened, they're uncertain, they don't know what's going on, they think the system is stacked against them, and they typically make bad decisions, bad strategic decisions. It's difficult to navigate that landscape without counsel. Pro bono is truly the good work of the bar. It embraces the highest ideals of the profession, and it typically goes unrecognized. Regarding the Katahdin Counsel program, it provides lawyers who provide 50 or more hours of qualifying pro bono legal services in a given reporting year, and reporting year runs from July 1st through July 30th. They're entitled to pro bono recognition by the Supreme Judicial Court. Participation and reporting of hours for Katahdin Counsel is really easy. As you well know, lawyers must register each year with the Board of Overseers of the Bar. It's an online form and has an optional subsection for reporting pro bono hours for the purposes of crediting for the Katahdin Counsel program. You also can actually fill out a form and send it to us. That works just as well. What I'd recommend is you check the Katahdin Counsel website for further information. There is a link, or will be a link, in the chat box to the website for the KC process. And just a couple of additional points on that. Some lawyers don't actually want public recognition. They don't want the announcements. And they say to me, well, you know, some of my paying clients come to me and say, how do I get in on some of that free work you're doing? And in a small town, that can be problematic. So if you want to participate, don't want to be recognized, that's perfectly fine. We'll send your recognition to you in a plain paper mailing that won't tell anyone that you're providing free legal services, but your clients will be very, very grateful for what you do. There's also another reason why you should participate in Katahdin Counsel Recognition Program. When our providers go to grant funders or the legislature, they typically get some blowback to the effect of, well, this is a lawyer problem. You lawyers should solve it. Why are you coming to us for money? The rebuttal to that, the pushback on that is lawyers are doing something about it. And Katahdin Counsel gives us the numbers that we can run up to say, look, this is what's happening. We need some help from you also. So if you register for a KC program, the providers will appreciate it because you will help them in their grant funding efforts. So in the bottom line, please continue to do pro bono work and report it for Katahdin Counsel status. I also want to talk to you briefly about the program that's in place called the Access to Justice Tax Credit Program. 4 years ago, at the behest of the Justice Action Group, the legislature enacted the Access to Justice Tax Credit Statute. The link to it is in, I think, the chat box also. The SJC designated the Maine Justice Foundation to administer this program. The program basically allows the SJC to designate 5 attorneys each year who commit to practice in an underserved area, typically rural locales, for 5 years, and they're rostered with the Public Defense Services, the Criminal Indigent Defense Services, and also agree to perform pro bono legal services in the area. The attorneys that are so designated are entitled to a state tax credit of up to $6,000 for each of the 5 years when the services are undertaken. The program is now in its 4th year, and tax credits of $174,000 have been awarded. So I recommend that you check out the excellent informational page that the MJF has provided. As I said, the link is in the chat box. And one important message on that, one final important message, the application period for 2025 will open on June 2nd, and close on June 16th. So if this is something that might be of interest to you, remember those dates, June 2nd and June 16th. The info's in the link in the chat box, and the folks at the MJF who do a marvelous job at administering this program would be happy to talk to you about it. Okay, so now on to the main event, the CLE pro bono credit. I'm going to hand off in just a moment to Magistrate Wolf for further information on that. The SJC received requests on a couple of occasions to create a pro bono credit for CLE and was reluctant to undertake it. Magistrate Wolf, when she took over the JAG pro bono committee, renewed those efforts, refined them, presented in a way that the SJC embraced it as a pilot project, and we are grateful for that. She will have some information, I think, in the chat box also regarding it, and she will walk you through the history and how it works. So thank you for your kind attention for my comments. I'll hand off now to Magistrate Judge Wolf.
Thank you, Justice Mead, and thank you to Susan and Angela for inviting us to be here. And thanks for everybody on the screen to even show up and listen to us. It's great to see so many of you. My committee, the Pro Bono Committee of JAG, every year takes on a project. A couple of years ago, our project was to try to amend Rule 5F of the main bar rules in order for you all to be able to get CLE credit for some of your pro bono work. And I'm so very proud of our committee for sticking with this. It was not an easy task. About half or a little fewer than half of the states allow CLE credit for pro bono work. I think it's headed in the right direction, but it's not fully embraced yet. But where it is embraced, it's been highly successful. So I could today talk about all of the reasons that you should do pro bono work. I see and know many of you on the screen, and I know you know all those reasons. So I'm just going to talk about the last reason, and the last reason is now you get to actually get credit for it. I say it wasn't an easy task. Well, it wasn't an easy task because really the bar rule that allows CLE credit and requires CLE credit is focused on competence and professionalism in the legal field. And so we really needed to frame our efforts to prepare and create a proposed amendment that would encompass those things. And those of you who do a lot of pro bono work know that there's so much learning involved in pro bono. Pro bono is vast, first of all. It's just the areas that there is need run so deep: domestic violence, PFAs, divorce, parental rights, eviction, housing, bankruptcy and debt collection, discrimination, public benefits, healthcare access, elder abuse, immigration and asylum issues. And so what pro bono does is really allows people to step out of their ordinary space at times and learn something new, and also learn about vulnerable communities and learn about all of the different resources that go hand in hand with providing legal work that we might not otherwise be aware of. So we really felt like it was a no-brainer that, of course, doing pro bono work improves professionalism and competence and does good at the same time. So the new rule allows up to 3 credits of CLE for pro bono work. So for every 3 hours of pro bono work done, a lawyer can get 1 hour of CLE credit. That CLE, that pro bono work has to go through an organization that provides for legal services for free. And most of those organizations are well known to us. Most of them are under the Maine Justice and the JAG umbrella. The clinics at Maine Law, Disability Rights Maine, ILAP, Legal Services for Maine Elders, Maine Equal Justice, Pine Tree Legal Assistance, and Volunteer Lawyers Project. Now, that said, there are many, many deserving organizations that are not under that umbrella. Doing work for those organizations is not excluded from this pilot. And the pilot is, I'll talk briefly about the pilot. It's a 2-year pilot to see how this goes. I have no doubt that it's going to go great, right? Because pro bono doesn't make things worse, it makes things better. So I'm not worried about the 2-year pilot. I think we'll actually have some metrics that will tell us how well it worked as well. So back to organizations that aren't part of the Maine Justice umbrella. Please do work for those organizations. It does mean, though, that you'll have to make a little extra effort to get your CLE credit. You'll need to actually apply to the Board of Overseers to have that organization approved. I've had many conversations with ARIA E. I'm not expecting any big problems, but because this is all new and it has created some more work for the Board of Overseers, please make sure that if you're doing work, particularly for some of the organizations not included in the list I just went over, that you get your forms in a timely way. So just to jump ahead, reporting for any calendar year for CLE is required by the end of February of the following year. Because this is all so new, I ask everybody to endeavor to put in for your hours in January, preferably by the end of January, just so that if any vetting, for example, needs to be done of a particular organization, or if Aria and her team have any questions for you, there's time to do that and time for you to get your credits in. So speaking of Aria and the Board of Overseers, what is going to happen on June 12th at noon will be a Lunch and Learn webinar regarding all things going on at the Board of Overseers, but including a walkthrough of how to actually submit your hours for pro bono work in order to get your CLE credit. So put that on your calendar, June 12 at noon, and the announcement will be coming around pretty soon. There is what Aria told me is a bargain price of $27 for the program, but the program itself gives you 1 hour of general or ethics credit. So everything's working on all cylinders right now, and we're just so happy with the court's decision to accept our proposed amendment and institute this pilot program. So what I'd like to do now, and then open it up to questions, is just leave you with something of my own story, which long predates this amendment, but I think speaks to it directly. So when I was a new lawyer in the mid-'80s, I worked for a law firm that had a number of institutional clients and business clients and the like. I was brand new in a small boutique law firm with senior partners, and some of our clients had either themselves or relatives or friends who needed a divorce lawyer. And while I loved my law partners, they didn't want to do that work. And so as the low man on the totem pole, I got tasked with picking up those cases, and I didn't know how to do family law. And so I muddled through my first couple of cases, but then decided that the way to learn and the way to meet people And the way to get involved in my communities as a lawyer was to pick up pro bono work in the family law space. And that's how I learned family law space. And lo and behold, what happened in fairly short order was I realized, one, I really liked it. And two, and what I liked about it was the realness of it, which is what everybody who does pro bono knows, right? It is real. What I also realized was that I thought I was at least pretty good at it. And I never stopped. From there, I sure had plenty of paying clients, but I, through my entire 36-year private practice career, averaged about 150 hours of pro bono work, mostly in the family law space or for victims of domestic violence through Pine Tree and through the Volunteer Lawyers Project. And I never sought to change that. What I did was capture other new associates and new lawyers coming in and kind of force them to do it too. And it became part of who they were as lawyers, or most of them anyway, who they were as lawyers as well. I can also tell you, and so in terms of what you learn, I learned almost everything I could learn about all the things about being a good lawyer from doing that work. Now, if it were right now, I could do that and get some CLE credit for it. I understand all of the pulls there are in practice, all of the challenges and all the competing issues you have to deal with, but pro bono, it's just where it's at. I can tell you now, looking back on my career, while I had thousands and thousands of clients, the ones I remember, the names I remember, the issues I remember, the names of their children, how pro bono changed their lives, those are the ones that stick in my head, the pro bono clients. Sign up for pro bono, sign up for your CLE credit, and keep doing all the great work that you're doing. And I guess now we'll open it up for some questions if you have any.
And so if you have some questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll read them off as we have time. I already have a couple that came in earlier, and you kind of hit on them already, I think, but just to be clear, because you talked about up to 3 credits per year, and it's 3 hours of pro bono to get one of those credits.
Right.
So people have, if they're doing a half hour at a time or something like that, in particular, we had a question about VLP and each call taking about a half an hour. They would just have to make sure they're keeping track of that time.
Yep, and you should anyway, and particularly if you're doing work through VLP for one, at the end of a case, you ultimately submit a closing letter, a closing form that has your total number of hours expended. So hopefully people are keeping track of that time anyway. Also, as you know, many cases don't just exist within the span of one CLE reporting year. So you're not bound by one reporting year per case. It's whatever you've spent. The form, which Aria's team will walk you through, and it's also will be posted here and after this event, a form that needs to be submitted will have you submit the total number of hours that you spent on pro bono for any given organization, and then the number of hours you're claiming. So if you spent 9 hours, you would get 3 CLE credits, 1 credit for each for every 3 hours. If it's not an even number, or it's rounded down to the nearest quarter hour, it's a rare occasion that a case would take less than that amount of time. But I will just say, as a side note, there's so many opportunities among the providers for work that isn't full-scale representation, that may be just a short phone call. So there's a great need there as well.
And I'll just throw in a distinction. The CLE credit does require association with an organization. The Katahdin Council recognition casts a much wider area for pro bono. Again, I recommend you go to the website and you'll see all of the different kinds of pro bono that would qualify and does not require you to associate with a particular association. But if you are associated with an organization, you may be able to hit both CLE and Katahdin Council recognition.
That's right. So you mentioned a form. Is there going to be a uniform form that is created by the Board of Overseers? Is that what will be required? So not each entity won't have its own form.
That's right. So there's a form that will be posted afterwards. And for those of you who are maybe at an event at the winter bar meeting, this was handed out. So it's an application for CLE credit for pro bono publico service. All the reporting will happen largely the same way it has online and be captured, but it's a very short form, has your name, your bar number, your address, the total number of hours performed, and the number of hours claimed. My suggestion is that you actually do the math in the form, at least until everybody gets the hang of this. The name of the provider that assigned the pro bono case, and a brief, very brief description of the services provided. So it's it really isn't a heavy lift at all. And most of it will be, almost all of it will be done online. And you'll submit in a very similar way. It will be really when things need more explanation, Ari will ask you for them, and those would mostly be related to any associated organizations that are not on the list I mentioned.
If someone can't attend the Overseers June 12th program, they can still participate in the CLE pro bono program,
absolutely.
correct?
Yeah, that's not a mandatory thing. And my expectation based on my look at the BBO site today is it probably will be recorded as well. You can go through it later. I'll also just say that while Aria has a lot on her plate at the BBO right now, she's happy to answer any questions, as are her staff, regarding how this will work.
I just have one more question in the chat, and it says, asking whether the employment clinic will qualify given its specialized nature.
Yeah, so I can't say it will with certainty, but it's absolutely the kind of organization that one should discuss with Aria, and I'll go out on a limb and say, I think probably.
Any other questions out there? I don't think so.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Justice Mead and Judge Wolf, for showing up today and explaining all of these opportunities to everybody. And thank you, everybody, for attending Bar Conference. And hopefully we see you all at the Summer Bar Conference.
And next Bar Talk is in September.